Salutations, everybody. It is Maddie here today with episode 163 of the H.A.M Radio Podcast.
And it's me, Karak with ACG.
Karak, thank you for joining me. How are you doing, man?
You bet. I'm doing great, except I just noticed my posters are like touching each other, and now it's driving me. It's fucking driving me.
You can fix that, man. Do you want to fix that right
now? It's all right, but I saw it, and I'm like, what the fuck? That's been like that through an entire podcast?
Yeah, you got two on your right, my left, and you got one over there. Yeah, we gotta balance.
I've got it fucked up. Yeah, it's leaning to port.
Yeah. Anyway, for those of you who are joining the show, thank you so much for tuning in. If you'd like to listen on the go, we have links in the description for both those on Google Play and iTunes. Furthermore, if you want to be a part of the show, you can support us on patreon.com/MrMattyPlays. You flick $1 our way, you get early access to the podcast on Fridays. It drops on Sundays at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for the rest of the public. Karak can attest to my immediacy, I guess, if that's even a word, with
yeah,
getting
early access. Also make you merchandise called Flick a Dollar, because now that you've said it like a couple times, I don't know why, but I chuckled. I don't know if you saw me.
Flick a buck, yeah. I just got like the dollar bill filled in half.
We need to get an artist. Yeah, we need to get an artist, or you like dancing like G-string and they're flicking a buck at you. I don't know. We'll figure it out.
We got this. So yeah, if you guys want to go ahead and flick a buck our way, you get early access to the podcast amongst many other perks like Discord access and so on. And now, let's get into what is a discussion-filled week, really, but we also have some news. So, I'd like to start off personally with one that I didn't expect. I thought this game was dead and gone, and here we are talking about Darksiders 3. Darksiders 3 is dropping November 27th of this year. Karak, this is a series that was kind of plagued by God of War. It was like, okay, it's very much similar in that way. At least the first one was very QTE heavy. I don't remember the second one all that much. How do you think Darksiders 3 stands in a busy part of the year? Also, once again, as they were always attacked by God of War, they're releasing in the same year as a superb God of War game.
Yeah, I didn't think about that. I know a lot of people also compare 2 to Zelda style titles. Style titles, not just Zelda.
Yes, I do remember hearing that.
Yeah. So I don't know. You were the one who was saying when you were tweeting me, you were like, it looks way better than it used to, which is true. The new video, the old stuff was like, that shit looked rough as fuck. So it actually, I mean, it looks interesting. The thing is I'm not 100%. So the first one showed some whip attacks and stuff, if I remember right, the first video. Then the second video shows sort of exploration. The only thing that bothers me a little bit, to be honest, is the movement looks weird. And I don't know why that's bothering me so much lately with games, but a lot of times when like the animations look a little off, that was the only thing I noticed. Otherwise, it'll be a Darksiders game, and I think a lot of people like those titles. So, and it's covering who? What? It's
Fury.
Fury.
Yes.
So, yeah, I mean, it looks interesting. It's releasing into a time frame that's good and bad. Good because a bunch of games moved to 2019.
Yes.
And bad because I'm not 100% sure it's strong enough to sort of lead like a holiday charge. I could be wrong. But.
Yeah, I just think, if it's in a different year, I think it does make a strong contender to lead a holiday charge. But in a year with a new Fallout game, in a year with a new Red Dead, and a new superhero game, and this is coming after it all, I think this is a game that a lot of people are going to see, go, wow, this looks great, and then realize it comes after all those. Where they might, if you ever made that mental note, like, I'm definitely going to pick this up, and when push comes to shove, the time you're there, and you're like, I don't have the money for this, or I just can't in good conscience do this. I think that's the position a lot of Darksiders consumers are going to find themselves in. We're going to see a lot of vocal support, and then we're going to see Let's Players do it, and we're going to see Let's Play support, and I don't think the game sells as well as it should.
And price point's going to be important, right, Maddie? So, like, if they were like, because I don't know what their price is, I haven't seen anything about it, but
60.
Man,
I'd imagine just
not do 40, right? Like,
get
it out there in that time frame after Red Dead and stuff at 40, and I think you have a much higher chance.
It depends how big the game is too, because Darksiders 2 was open world, correct? So I think it's a safe assumption that they're going to evolve on that formula, build another Darksiders open world title, because in every way, from what I had heard, because like I said, I don't remember much when I had played it, because I think that came out. Darksiders 2 dropped at the same time as something else, and because I remember my buddy Connor got Darksiders 2 and really liked it, and then I got another game around that same period of time. This is 2013, so I can't think of what it was, but I think it was around May 2013. So, not sure.
God damn, it's been that long.
Yeah, right. I think so.
Insane.
But that's why I don't remember it. I think they're going to evolve on that. I am looking forward to it though, and it's actually one that when I saw, I was like, I'm definitely going to make time to play this. You know, especially in a crowded year. The other thing is also what I noticed with this release date is we're starting to see the video game industry move to more of a year-round approach. Usually the starting date is like late September and the cutoff date's like mid-November. Now we're seeing this late November, and we're seeing Smash Brothers the following week or two, I think, on the Switch, which is another big launch. We're seeing Octopath here in July, which is a pretty big launch for the Switch. It's an exclusive title. We saw Mario Aces last month, along with Vampire, Onrush. We're seeing the industry kind of develop into this full-year cycle where I think in 2 or 3 years, we're going to it'd be a safe expectation to see maybe the industry in a place where, the Crew 2, forgot that one too.
The Crew 2, sorry, I forgot,
And so there you go, and we're seeing it slowly roll into a full year approach where usually the summer is the time you slow down, and I think there will still be that break, that take a breath, because you know a lot of PR is being done at conventions for these games. But I wouldn't be surprised if now we're seeing more games try to find their niche almost. They're trying to find their spot in the calendar, and we're going to see a lot more of this where the calendar date gets extended where, that's a little bit closer to Christmas, but I think we put it here, we give ourselves a better shot than January or February next year.
Yeah, and for example, Vampire, which you said was that last month?
Vampire was last month, yes.
So Vampire sold 450,000. They wanted to sell 500 to 1 million, but I don't think they would have had they released in fall. I think it was a good time for them to release. I think right now would have been a better time because we're sort of dead right now. In this,
it's $60, by the way, just to clarify.
For Darksiders?
Yes, $60. Sorry, I kind of ruined your train of thought.
Okay, so ignoring... So Vampire released at a good time frame. I don't think it would have done so well in fall. I think that Darksiders, though, there's a lot of fans, make no mistake, but I'm not I'm not 100% sure that's the greatest time. I think the overall year thing is the best thing for the industry, though.
Yes.
That, and fucking let's hope somebody who's planning on releasing in December may look and go, you know what? Let's give it an extra 5 months of polish. State of Decay 2. State of Decay 2 certainly could have waited for a couple months, right? Let's polish that bitch up. Let's get it all shiny and working, and then let's release it. And release it in a month that, some of these other titles aren't in. I'm okay with that. I would love for that to happen.
I agree. A big thing, though, is I remember a developer had said, I saw it on Reddit, I believe it was someone from Bethesda Game Studios, actually, or former dev. He had said that the thing that you're never going to see someone do is like, and I know, like, for example, State of Decay 2, that's not a finished game, but, you know, when they go over QA and Microsoft goes, all right, this is feature complete, ship it. You know, and I wonder when they say, like, okay, this is enough, and when they say this is done, and we're going to release it now. And that's when they consider it ready for launch, or, you know, because what I was getting at was the dev says, you're never going to delay a finished product. So I imagine to myself that if it's in their interpretation, like, hey, this is finished, then
extend that.
Yeah, exactly. Right. It's like, how much polish do we need? If we do polish, do we lose out on 200,000 sales or something? I think a lot gets considered in that when it comes down to like the final month or two before a game launches.
Well, and also when you look at development, there's multiple different types. Waterfall's one type. Most game developers don't use waterfall development, but if somebody's developing software, there's a code freeze where you're like, okay, there's no new additions. This is all beta. Sorry, not beta. This is all polishing. I just wish that was extended. Yeah. It's like, instead of having 2 months, don't make me a fucking early access beta tester for you. I already gave you my $60. Instead, you know, like you said, where's their line? Well, then extend your fucking line for a while.
Yeah.
Give me Crew 2 with PvP, because you can't even race multiplayer, right? Yeah. Like, extend that shit and get games out there, because people will remember that for years. If I think we've shown that if something is released and it is working right away, there's very few technical issues. Usually those are the games that people talk about months later. Yeah.
Another thing that could impact this year-round fiasco is I just read that Unreal Engine is now doing, instead of a 70-30 split for revenue, they're doing 80-20, which I think is huge. And then I think they're also retroactively like going back and supplying money for prior sales or prior usage of the engine. Yeah, I know, and that's like one of those things where I almost want to go on Fortnite and say to Epic, like, here, I'll pay for Season 5, even though I'm not going to fucking play it. I just thank you for doing a good thing, man. Like, I think that's amazing, right? And so, with that, the revenue share, I think that can allow a little additional, we'll put this in quotes, risk, right? They stand a chance to make more money back instead of, I think, for any company, they look at 730, 80-20, they're like, fuck yes. You know, we can look at it that way as YouTubers. There are various partnership offers, and it's a huge difference when some company comes to my way and says, we'll give you 730 versus someone who says, we'll give you 820. Like,
well, like networks for YouTubers. I don't know if you... Oh, sorry. Yeah, because I'll always get approached by networkers, and right now I don't use a network, so it's 100% me. And I get that they can offer stuff, but a lot of times they'll be like 80-20, and I'll be all, fuck you 80-20, or fuck you 70-30. But if you have to make that choice, more is better. And the idea that Epic's like going to allow that, or not allow, but is now doing that, is all the better, because I think that it does some risk. But also, what if somebody says, all right, let's eat up that 5% of that gain by polishing longer, and we'll still get another 5%, more, because they change the percentage. Anything that helps developers usually helps us. So I'm all for it. I think that's awesome.
Yeah, huge move.
I was surprised by the news. Yeah,
as was I. I mean, it shows that they've made so much with Fortnite that they're able to go like, all right, let's give a little bit back to the community and probably make some more because more people will use our engine.
You think that's why, Matty?
I imagine there's a connection, like what other things are, because I mean, the weird thing is they shut down Paragon, right? They shut down Paragon, which could have just been a MOBA that catches a little bit of fire and makes them some additional money, but instead they shut that down because Fortnite's doing so well. And also because Fortnite's doing so well, I imagine they're saying, hey, let's give more money back to the devs, get more people using this engine. But yeah, man, I think that's superb of Epic, not to take the original story off track of Darksiders 3. As someone who's played the Darksiders games, what's something you would personally want to see in a Darksiders 3?
Fixed combat and lack of any QT, lack of very few. Or not lack of, but very few QTEs. The second one, I don't remember the second one having a lot. I had a major glitch in the second one where whenever I got on a ledge, my guy would climb to the left at all times. So like I would walk, everything was normal. The moment I'd leap to a ledge, which a lot of the game is based on climbing, my guy would just shimmy to the left the entire time. I was like, I can't even get to where I need to go.
You can't move.
So to me, lack of QTEs. I didn't mind 2. I remember the hub world was fine. I'll just say movement. I really do. I don't feel that 2 had the best animation, and I would like to see, because in those kind of games, when I'm looking at somebody, I want them to look like they're connected to the world, like they move as everybody else does, and that's the only thing I really worry about with Darksiders.
Okay. Yeah, I can get behind that. I think just QTEs has always been a concern. You wonder if they're watching other developers, like when Spider-Man PS4 had its reveal at E3, and a lot of gamers are like, whoa, QTE here, like, relax. And Insomniac like said, we removed some, this is just for the demo, and furthermore, it's hardly in our game. Like, they instantly were like, boom. And I wonder if, I forgot the name of the dev for Darksiders, looked at that and said, I know
is it THQ Nordic still?
Yeah, I don't know if they were publisher or developer, though.
Right.
And I wonder if, we'll say THQ, I wonder if THQ looks at it and goes, whoa, okay, let's make sure we strip away a lot of that and just maybe make it a cutscene. Just, like, let it happen. You know, the player hits the final blow and then cutscene.
Yeah, I mean, the thing about cutscenes is I'm not against them in, like, a Telltale's game because it's a story-based. But whenever you get the fast action and then it's a QTE, there's that moment where the entire game changes. It's just like, oh, it's a playable cutscene. Instead, shorten up your cutscene, tell the story you want to tell, and then let me get back to the action for the most part. Because I also think graphically, the QTEs rarely look, for Until Dawn, The QTEs look like the game world because it's like Telltale games. They're in the same world. But a lot of times QTEs, when you play them in action games, the QTE always looks a little better. Animations you can't do are done in that cutscene. And that, to a lot of gamers, I think, it
reminds me of...
and pops them out.
Yeah, it reminds me of Marvel Ultimate Alliance. You know, you have those sequences in the boss fights where you like press a series of buttons and you like slide between this big enemy's legs, hop up on his head, and like
something
all these
you
cool
cannot do.
Yeah, exactly. It's almost like in a way you're giving the player the power. You're like clicking the buttons and making them do it, but you're not actually like
giving them the power.
Yeah, it's like a false power. It's like it's like you're faking them out. Like you're doing it, but not really. Like we're putting you on a leash here, kind of. So yeah, I agree. I'd like that removed. As for the story, that's one thing I'm interested in, because like for those who are listening to this and who are intrigued by Darksiders 3, it is a solid series, I'll say. And if you are a PlayStation owner, the mid-year sale, I believe it goes on till the 16th. So if you're like me and you're like, fuck it, I want to replay Darksiders 1 and 2 before the third one, right now, there is Darksiders 1 for $2, normally
Jesus
$20.
Christ.
And yes, Darksiders 2 for $3. So
yeah, I would say pick those up.
yes, for $5 you can get 2 good games. Very, very enjoyable experiences. I'd really say if you were on PSN, at least the first one, because you're saving yourself a lot of money, and they probably won't go on a sale like this for a while. There was a sale prior, earlier on in the year, that these Darksiders games were on a cheap discount, but we don't know if that'll pop up again between now and release. So I'd just say if you're interested and you're a PlayStation owner, definitely give them a look. At least the first one.
Maddie, did they have DLC, man? You remember? Did they have? They didn't have microtransactions, thank God. But
yeah,
did
I think 2 did.
maybe weapons or something?
Yeah.
Oh, you know what? I think that. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that is what it had. So my also then hope is that we don't see any microtransactions. I would like to.
Yeah,
I would like to play 3.
I would.
None.
Yeah, I don't. Based off their decisions with pricing with THQ, they handled the remastered, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, based off that pricing, based off these deep discounts, I imagine they're very aware of the situation they're in.
Yeah.
Of like, we got to get gamers in the door here and start buying our products in the first place. I'd imagine because of that microtransactions, I wouldn't think they'd be a concern.
You don't think so?
I could be wrong. You know, because this could be like, you know, this is their big fall title. Like, this is a big game for them. This
I
could
hope
be
you're not wrong.
Yeah, same, because that will be a nail in the coffin.
Yeah, just one more. It's like, it would be nice. I don't know, man. We don't know the financials, but I just wish a company would look at that and go, okay, obviously we're releasing after Red Dead and all these big crazy games. What can we do? Well, if you can't drop the price, if you don't want to drop the price lower than 60, then make sure there's no microtransactions, and maybe DLC's free. Maybe.
Yeah.
I
here,
would.
let me check if Darksiders 2 had any DLC, because that's something I'm curious about. DLC items is coming up in the hotbar. Yeah, there's Argyl's Tomb, Abyssal Forge, Demon Lord Belial. Hold on, this actually sounds like substantial content.
Yeah, I was just gonna say maybe
that doesn't sound like just item packs. Okay, so let me click on Argyl's Tomb first. Argyl's Tomb is the first DLC for Darksiders 2 and placed a heavy emphasis on frozen environments surrounding a tale on an older dead king, and surrounds the tale of an older dead king than the Lord of Bones. His name is Argyl. He is betrayed by the current dead king for the sake of his throne. Ostrogoth offers death a reward in return for locating Argyl's tomb and destroying it. So yes, this is like a location DLC.
Base DLC, yeah.
And I'm imagining the others, I'll check while we sit here. I imagine the others are more of the same.
They are. I'm looking to, when you read the first one, I read the second one.
Yeah,
the
Abyssal Forge. Yep, part 1, part 2.
Lord Belial. So, yeah, I just hope they're free if they do it.
Yes.
That's just me.
Yeah, that's okay. So that definitely throws a little bit of a wrench into it. I'd say, I'll say this. Game releases, no microtransactions, anything, just roadmap, though. Kind of like Tomb Raider. Roadmap. Yeah. I don't know if they'll put prices on it there or not, but I think...
Kingdom Come, Deliverance. Yeah. I think they did a good job with their roadmap.
I think see how the game does, roadmap.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, yeah, I think that. Any more thoughts on Darksiders 3?
No, it just dawned on me. I think Darksiders 2, the version I played, was the devil version or whatever.
Definitive.
It had that DLC. Now that I remember, and because that was like 2 years ago, I think, when I looked at that. So, yeah, man, I'm just the better they can, or the more they can differentiate themselves, the better. And if you have to do that, if you can't do it with pricing, then do it with free DLC, or make sure that DLC's fucking epic, right?
Like a Prey.
Yeah, no shit. Yeah,
because they're like buy this $20 DLC, and then I didn't realize they add free updates to that DLC. Like they added like something Skyrim related, something Evil Within related.
It's basically DLC for DLC that's free, which was pretty fucking cool.
And then, and one of the free updates coming with that is the Mimic Hunt one, like the multiplayer shit. I just saw that and thought, fuck, man, like, you know, for $20, you're really getting your money's worth because you're getting updates that are free for a DLC. It's almost like a second platform. It's awesome. Yeah. So yes, Darksiders 3 is dropping November 27th this year. If you guys are interested, once again, if you're a PlayStation owner, I highly recommend you look into at least the first one just to give the series a whirl. It improves over time. And now let's move on to our second bit of news. Code Vein has been delayed. It's into 2019. Had you ever had a chance to play test this game? You have not. Okay, I did.
Haven't even had a chance to do anything other than see one video. Really? Okay,
so... for those who don't know what Code Vein is, it's pretty much and we talked about this pretty extensively when Fighting Cowboy was on the podcast. It's pretty much a simple way of breaking it down is like it's anime Souls. That's one way of putting it. But it has like this whole mechanic where you have this giant demon gauntlet that you can use to soak something out of the enemy. There's a specific word for it. And when you do so, that powers you up in a unique way. So it has its own gameplay quirks that make it stand out. It's obviously got the art style that makes it stand out. And when I had played it at E3, it was one of those situations where it's like, this isn't blowing me away, but it didn't seem like it was bad enough or broken, buggy, like anything was acting weird. It looked like it was ready for launch. So I wonder if, we were just talking earlier, like, hey, we have this situation where why not delay it into an area where we're a little bit safer and also the game's better. So I'm personally calling that's what they're doing because they're releasing in a month with Spider-Man and right before Call of Duty and Red Dead. I think they realize that this game doesn't stand much of a chance at this current point in time.
Yeah, especially if maybe it's a slow burn. Maybe it's one of those games like a Vampire where you get into it and you're like, oh, wow, but at first blush it's not some, crazy God of War looking thing. Then I could certainly see them delaying it for that reason, yeah. I mean, the Red Dead effect alone has caused multiple people to move to, the starting of next year anyway. What time are they are they delaying it to? Do you know?
They just said just to 2019. I can, while you keep going, I can double check and make sure. But when I had read an article, it just said delayed to 2019. I don't think.
What would you say the animation looked like, Maddie? Like, so you said it
Silky,
had
not Silky. Silky's a big compliment. Silky's what I'd say. Silky's what I'd say. Platinum Games is. So that's definitely not the right word. What were you saying though?
I was gonna say I made a mistake. I didn't mean the animation. What's the art style? Like, what is there a cartoon or anime or what have you?
Yeah, more anime. Like spiky hair, like the eyes were kind of detailed. For those who are into really obscure JRPGs, I'm about to drop a reference of like Dot Hack, kind of like that type of art style, that type of character concept, except like more modernized. Let me click on Polygon's article here. Vampire action RPG needs more time, is what they say. I didn't know this was a vampire game. Shows how much I know. It has been delayed to 2019, the publisher announces. Code Vein was pushed to next year to further refine its gameplay in an effort to exceed the expectations fans already have of the title. This is based on all the feedback we'd received over the last few months, namely at events like E3 and Anime Expo in LA. Yeah, it's not saying when. So it's, I was correct. It was just literally 2019. 2019.
maybe I'm wrong on the price thing and the timing. That does sound like maybe they found something overall that they didn't like, because a lot of times they'll say February, and you know what they're doing. They're getting away from the holiday glut. But that when they're like, there's things that were brought up at these different animes, perhaps it's people who, you know, followed it and were like, this doesn't look exactly right, or maybe they, like you, were like, it's good, but it's not blowing me away. Maybe they're all, okay, we need to like light this thing up a little bit, and that's why they're delaying it.
If anything, my biggest complaint was the environment. I felt like everything of promo material I've seen and everything I've seen in game has always been, and I said this once again when Cowboy was on the show, but it was more of like this hellish environment. It was like just rock.
I do remember you bringing that.
Yeah, like rock, red, brown. It was very just boring to explore. It wasn't like a lot of games at E3 where usually when I enter a demo environment, I think to myself, okay, this is a demo. I'm not going to sit here and play extensively, so it's a short period of time, but still they somehow managed to grab me in a unique way, where this one, it was just like, I was going through the motions. And a big part of that is someone who's sold on environmental design, world building. It didn't offer me anything intriguing outside of character concepts, which I imagine in a Souls-esque game, it doesn't offer much on that it looked like it was kind of flat off the start.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, they could. There's a lot of stuff they could do graphically to sort of spruce up those areas. Maybe they just decided we're gonna, make it look a little bit more interesting. I mean, it's a tough time. It's a lot of competition.
I think now that you mentioned, like, they may have found something. I also remember Fighting Cowboy had posted a video. He went to an event to play Code Vein. Like, they were doing the general press and feedback collecting that most companies do prior to launch, and also to build hype. And I had not, out of all the feedback I'd heard, I had not heard someone say, like, yeah, it was buggy. Yeah, there was something.
Gotcha.
Like, it just seemed like it was just like, yeah, this is good. Like, yeah, it's all right. Like, I think they had set the expectations for themselves. Like, this is really going to shock people. And then no one was shocked. No one was like, whoa. Other than, like, the character concept. It wasn't the gameplay, though. And that's where they go, let's dial it back. Let's see if we can tweak something here. So I think you're onto something there with that one. But yeah, it's just flat out 2019. So that shows that, I think they're going to work on not just fixing a bug, but rather adding something.
Adjusting some stuff.
Yeah. I mean, the other interesting mechanic in there was, pardon me, you always had someone like following you and actually legitimately helping in combat. So, and they were, if they died, they just kind of disappeared. And that was it. It was a very, what's the word I'm looking for? It was a very cumbersome game to get into, because you start off the demo, and usually it's like, okay, this is a Souls game, I know what I need to do, but Iker, that's the name of the mechanic. There's that mechanic explained. There's like so many little nooks and crannies that I think a big issue that they may have encountered was they hit the player with so much early on.
Complexity.
Yeah, it was a lot of complexity, a lot of steps to understand, at least in my opinion, from just like I picked it up and I find out there's a couple of other systems in place here that I don't get. Maybe they just didn't give enough people enough time with the game to say like, hey, I get this, and now I see what's special about this game. Where maybe they're going back and they're trying to spread the wealth, like, okay, we have this like level 1, level 2, level 3. Pretend each of those levels, for those listening audio-wise, are separate areas, and split them and kind of segment everything and make the beginning a little bit more digestible for the player.
Well, and Lawbreakers showed that if you don't have a good tutorial and you don't explain things well, you can have a disaster on your hands. So to me, that makes perfect sense. That maybe, and that might be why it's so long, because maybe they're like, okay, we need to really break this up. Yeah. Because complexity, a lot of times, I don't know about you, but I'll see a menu and it'll say like inventory or something. And if I'm not really interested in the inventory at that time, you click through it.
Yeah.
But if also on that hint is something about some arcane little system, then a person can end up halfway through. And I've done this in games where I've played for a while and been like, where's the blah, blah, blah? And then go in and it's like under the
go through a whole game without using it. Yep.
Yeah. So to me, that makes a lot of sense on why they said 2019 and they didn't say the exact day, because they do have to clean that stuff up. I hope they do.
Yeah, a great example of that, I think, is actually God of War. God of War had solid UI, but when it came to leveling up your character,
Yeah.
It wasn't your standard, like, go to your stat menu, increase this, or that. It was based off the items you collect and that you equip, and some of them were tucked away like menu. Right. So there's like 3 sub-menus to get to the enchantments of the pommel of your axe. And then you finally upgrade that, and then you jump up to like level 6 finally. You're like, fuck, that's what I was missing this whole time? Like, I was wondering why I was struggling.
Weird connections,
now I get it. Yeah. So I think the other thing is that I feel sometimes the worst tutorials are the ones that give you a mechanic and tell you everything about it off the bat.
Oh, true.
They just tell you, like, in a big paragraph on screen, everything you need to know. I think it just hits you with the information. It does not leave room for discovery, and it doesn't leave room for experimentation. It's like, this is the mechanic, this is how it's used, rather than this is the mechanic. You can use this to quick step behind your opponent. It's like, instead, let's say, oh, I could quick step behind my opponent and then maybe get a backstab like in the Souls games, where a tutorial of this kind, and especially in Code Vein, where, like I said, I opened up like 4 different menus and they were all meaty paragraphs.
Right.
A Code Vein tutorial will be like, you can backstep, and then if you backstep, you can backstab them. Or if you backstep this way, you can also do this spell. Or if you backstep and then open your inventory, you can quick swap a weapon or some shit like that. You know what I'm saying? Like, it hits you with everything at once. I think they just needed to spread the wealth and make each mechanic a little more digestible early on.
Vampire did a good job because it still had some mystery, even though it did the movies, which are my favorite thing. I love when it's like, here's what your special effect will look like. I love that. Yeah. But one of the things they say in one of those menus is like, some attacks can be comboed. They don't tell you what the button is. They don't say it's Mortal Kombat XXYX. They're just like, some things can be comboed. And that, strangely enough, had me getting into fights going like, XY, okay, that doesn't work. XYY, oh, that did this differently.
Exactly.
So adding a little mystery and also not having huge things, I would rather have a little video or a little blurb. Also, I'm loving games, dude, that are starting to have like the help menu. Yeah. When you go into your main menu and it'll be like help and you click it, or tutorials, and it'll let you go through all that shit all over again. Fantastic design. That needs to be in every game.
Yeah, like Prey does that. You look at something, you press the start button, and it'll bring up that very thing for the tutorial if you forgot what something did, or if you need a full explanation on it. But usually it's intuitive enough where you can discover and understand it on your own within the game world.
Love it.
Yeah,
love it.
Absolutely. So I think those are some of the key issues with Code Vein. Like I said, was not bad. I saw, okay, there's potential here, but like I said, it was just like, okay, this is just good. This is for a very specific audience. I think they kind of want to open that up a little bit more. So we will see in due time where Code Vein ends up. Before we get to a lot of the discussions, the last bit of news for us is about Mr. Todd Howard. So Todd said in a recent speech in Barcelona, he was talking about Skyrim. He said millions of players still hop on Skyrim every month. And furthermore, he's joked and said, if you want us to stop porting this game, stop buying it. Now, there were a couple of viewers of mine who were like pissed off, like, how dare he? But like, he's obviously being facetious. But there is some truth in this statement. Like, hey, it's business. Like, if you don't want this, look at the sales, look at the millions of players each month. Like, you just stop and this all ends, right? It was a joke because they're kind of embracing the meme. You know, they made Skyrim on the Alexa. But first off, are you surprised that a game from 2011, a single-player game at that, is managing to garner millions of players? Ow, fuck my knee! Every single month.
Yeah, that was a lot. But I also, you know me, I'm not a big fan of Bethesda's way of doing things, and I have to say I saw nothing wrong with what he said. There's 2 reasons why. There's a ton of ego in gamers right now, where they forget that new people come into the industry every day, and if all we're talking about is Skyrim, there is a chance for $5, $15, what have you.
Absolutely.
They may go get a Skyrim. So,
Darksiders, like we were just talking about. We're talking about it, and someone might say $2, yeah.
Remove your ego a bit and look at it, you know, like, yeah, we get it. It is business, and we do tease it, but I think that he's probably got a pretty good idea also that the most vocal are almost never right. Like, you get a YouTuber, even myself, who'll be like, bah, bah, bah. But then obviously people are fucking getting it, and its modability builds in longevity, and you have modders doing full worlds like Elsewhere, and there's a couple others beyond Skyrim. So it's like, we can't sit here and say Maddie's started a Bethesda channel for no fucking reason. One of the reasons why you did is because of the Bethesda games. So you can't have it both ways. So to me, I think he was just being completely facetious. And it was one of the few times where when I heard him say something, I wasn't instantly like, God damn it, Todd. Instead, I was all, oh, I get it. Like, it was a joke. He was like, quit buying it and we'll move on. But it is business, like you said.
It really highlights something weird with this part of the industry. I don't know, maybe if weird's the right word, but you'll correct me if so as I explain further. You know, it's one of those situations where, like, joking's very hard here. Like, if I were to say, like, oh, Karak, me and you disagree, I'm like, you're being a fucking dickhead. I say that to you. It's like, you know I'm fucking joking. We've been friends long enough, and I obviously don't think you're a dickhead. But someone on the internet sitting there, headphones in, Karak, you're a fucking dickhead. They're like, God, Matt, you know, you sound like such a douche there. How could you say that? Because they don't know our relationship. We're friends. And joking becomes hard. Where I talked to Austin Horgan, who had previously worked at Shoddycast. He's on the Game Theorist now, and he's like, oh, I wanted to make a little near-perfect joke in a video just to kind of, like, lovingly jab at you. But I know people would just twist it into, I hate you. And I'm like, it's sad because it's true. Because I don't fucking care. You know, I'm very much a person who roasts my friends endlessly, and I love getting roasted back. You know, it's always been that way with me. And so I've noticed that joking is like near impossible. Yeah. It sucks because I love to just jokingly rip on YouTube friends of mine, and I did it to Lone sometimes, and people would understand it's in good fun, but there would even be people who were Lone would tweet out, I hate you, Matt. And people would be like, why does Lone hate you? It's like, Lone doesn't fucking hate me. Just like
remember when we joked that one time and we said, I can't believe Lone did this, and there were legitimate people going like, oh my God, and I'm all, oh, for fuck's sakes, I didn't even think about that.
Yeah, dude, it's ridiculous. Or another example I've experienced is like Pete Hines. Like him and I have like joked with each other many times, but like when Pete Hines jokes at me, they're like, Bethesda hates Matty. It's like, you know, they fucking hate him. He sucks. It's like they scream from the rooftops. My haters are like partying. Fuck him. Like, yeah, it's ridiculous, man. But that's what it highlights for me. It's like there is truth in his statement, but it is still a joke. And I don't say this because it's Bethesda, but just in general, there is no humor allowed, I feel.
Yeah, and I would say, like I said, I'm not a big fan of a lot of their way they handle PR, and there was absolutely nothing wrong with that. Like, that was one of the few times where it's like, yeah, exactly. Like, it wasn't even dissing old core gamers or anything. It was like, dude, seriously, if you want us to quit making it, then quit fucking buying it. Because if a bunch of people are buying it, obviously we're going to make more. I mean, rarely do you get a company going, fuck, this is a success, shut it down.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, we don't want it.
It's like, why do you think they're making another Elder Scrolls spinoff?
Exactly.
Hello.
So to me, it makes perfect sense. I think the joking thing is pretty true that it is hard. It is hard to joke. Especially if you're ever serious, then people can bite on the fact that you were serious even one time. And I don't mean teasing somebody, but I mean, even if you did a serious video, and then you joke the next time, people can look back and go, he obviously wasn't joking because did you see this other video?
Yeah, it's like this permanent emotion because...
That's the problem with you and I. Twitch, one thing they don't deal with as much is they have their VODs once they've done their live stream. Yeah. But it goes away, right? Unless somebody chooses to go grab it and download it and cut a part out. But my YouTube... I've had people go 4 years later and look at a review and be like, I can't believe you said this, but now you're saying this. And I'll be all, that's what happens as adults. We learn new info. So, for example, I don't know if you saw Skill Up. He was like, I'm not going to talk about Division anymore. I think it was Division, yeah. And then later, it was Destiny. And then later, the DLC came up and he did a video. And there were people on my channel, on my Twitter going like, I can't believe he fucking did a video after he said he wasn't going to. And I'm like, Jesus Christ. Yeah, I know, right? We should not celebrate lack of like openness in a platform creator. I mean, he probably maybe shouldn't have. I don't know how he said he wasn't going to.
I've been there, dude. I said after Fallout 4's DLC ended, I was like, yeah, I'm toning back the Bethesda coverage. I said I want to talk about other shit, and I still covered Bethesda at times because I wanted to keep that portion alive on my channel. That's very much what I am here. But you know, when I did, people were like, I thought you were done with this, Matt. You're not sticking to your word. Just drop Bethesda. Just move on. It's like, no, like, I'm still open to this discussion. Just I'm doing it less. Like, the other difference was like from what you said, Skill Up was more like I'm not doing this, where I was more like I'm toning this down, and people thought that meant like I'm completely done.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I didn't get to unfortunately see what he originally said, but I was tweeting back to people just going like, you can fuck off. I mean, it makes absolutely no sense for it. Well, first of all, you shouldn't say no, most likely, as a creator. It's probably best to just, you know, maybe say you don't like something. You like you said, I'm going to cover it less. That leaves you the opening, so there's some language issues there. But at the same time, it really even doesn't matter. If you say, hey, I'm not going to cover Bethesda, and then Bethesda announces something cool, fuck anybody who says you're not going to cover it. That would be ridiculous. That would be the dumbest thing in the world. I'm going to kill my channel just because I said something.
Exactly.
You know, 15 videos ago.
I also think, like, when you say you don't like one thing in a video, like you said 3 years ago, like, I'm sure I could pull something from an old review. Okay, here's one. Here's one. For sure, this has changed. In my original 2012 Dishonored review, I was like, this game's great, but it's not long enough. And that's why I said, wait a little bit for it. In 2012, nowadays, you very well are much aware, I'll take a 6-hour amazing experience like Hellblade: Senua's Sacrifice over like 30 awful, tedious, mediocre fucking hours. Yeah. But back then, you know, that's what I said. I said, like, yeah, you know, hold off on this game for a little bit, guys. Dishonored's a good game, but it's not long enough. It was like, what, 10 hours long, 8 hours long?
Yeah.
But, you know, so like someone could go on that review and be like, I can't believe you're saying go get this game. It's $60 and it's only 6 hours. But back then you would say hold off on it. It's like you said, people evolve, times change. You see light, you understand. Like you said, there's like this almost, you say something in a video and then you are held. Not held to that, because you should be held to your word. But there is a point where it's like, if you say something and you read a comment and it changes your thinking process a little bit.
Right.
Yeah, that's not a bad thing. The difference is it's not an open dialogue. It's not like you and I talking right now where if I say something and you go, well, hold on, Matt, how about this? That you can stop me in my tracks, correct me, or fix something, and then I can, all right, you're right, and then go on the right track. It's like you make a video, it's on the track all the way. Like, you're not stopping it. The video's still there no matter what, and then you make another video afterwards if you have to recap that. Whole completely different process.
Yeah, it's a weird situation, you know, with somebody like a Todd or a Pete Hines where they say something, even myself, where I go back and I'm like, what the fuck? But overall, I think most of the time it's better, even if your initial reaction might be, what the fuck? I think it makes sense for almost everybody to be sort of open to those kind of things changing. Like, oh, I get it.
It keeps you open, and it keeps you from joining the freak out culture where, like, everything you explode over. What the fuck is this? It's like, dude, weren't you, like, incredibly heated about that? It's like, oh, right, I was. You know?
Yeah, exactly. It definitely helps.
But yeah, so if you guys want Skyrim to stop being ported, do not buy it anymore, because the next stop is phones. Next stop is definitely phones. That's all the news we have, but that does not mean that the discussion has to cease here. Let's go into the review process a little bit. I thought this would be a good topic because, you know, we're ramping up, we're getting ready for that fall season where it's incredibly busy. And I just wanted to talk about how you and I review games, but also how we can play the same product, sometimes come to similar thoughts despite not communicating about them at all due to embargo, or being able to openly communicate about certain portions of the game, and thus reviews being influenced, or also people who you've never spoken to before, but we end up agreeing on the same things, and how that all works. So we have a couple of examples that we would go through here. I actually personally want to start off with one I had mentioned where I said, like, someone you really haven't spoken to before, but you end up with the same opinions. Not all of them, but most of them you can just agree on. How does that happen? So for me, I made my review for Prey Moon Crash this past week, and Skill Up, which, Karak, you had told me on the podcast last Friday when we recorded. You told me about it. You were like, you got to try it out. Check out Skill Up's review. So I watched his review. I'm like, fuck, this looks awesome. Or it sounds awesome, rather. You know, it's not just that typical procedural generation. I hop in, I play it, I beat it. I'm like, that was fucking phenomenal. And so I make my review. Especially when a small piece of content It's always interesting to watch reviews, because I've always said reviews are a glorified opinion piece. Yeah, as much as I love my reviews, at the end of the day, you got to know your reviewer. You got to know they're just giving their thoughts on the title. And especially when gamers share the same taste in certain things. Like for me, I see a $20 piece of DLC. I see longevity in it. I see replayability in it. I see creative gameplay design in it. And I highlight that. But for example, a couple of comments I received, not too many, but a couple, enough to make me think about this topic and talk about various parts of the review process, where like Skill Up said some of the same things. I was like, well, you're correct. He did say a couple of the same things, because we do value those things. So what I want to get to with this is, what do you think about creating individuality through the reviews? Like, what do you do in your reviews to really make yours stand out and go like, this is a Karak ACG review?
Drop a Peter North or Tory Blake or Tory Black porn joke. So first of all, you and I do have different time frames. I think that's important. I'm usually day and date and embargoes, because I don't do news videos and stuff, and you usually are later because of your time limits. And then sometimes you'll get a game and I won't. I think it wasn't Persona 5. There was one, fucking bastard, you got Lego Super or what was it, Marvel Superheroes 2.
Yeah.
so that's a big deal. But for me, I just don't really give a fuck overall about, like, not only what other reviewers say, but because if I did, I would be mad at you for, let's say, not liking Far Cry Primal.
I knew it was coming.
but I don't like Battlefront. So we have those kind of situations, but we also agree on Forza. And I've seen people be like, oh, well, Maddie said this. It sounded like what you said. Good. That's what you should have. If you can get some agreement from multiple people, that's what you should celebrate, not get mad about. You see a lot of people who are mad about videos. They'll be like, you stole this, or this person stole this. Overall, there's very little you can steal unless you're repeating the same one-liners and that kind of stuff. The unfortunate thing that happened yesterday that I saw you posting about, which was thumbnails, where somebody had copyrighted a channel, a strike against a channel do that. For me, though, I just say what I want to say and usually assume, for the most part, that it'll be individual enough because of the setup I have. Sound, music, voice. There's a couple things that, so I don't worry about it so much. If I was doing later reviews, then maybe I would worry about it. But I mean, sometimes somebody will copy me. For example, a major YouTube channel does copy my review title, the buy, wait for sale thing. And I didn't know that. And somebody was like, hey, dude, like a major company is pretty much. And I'm like, really? Can they copy it? Because they can say the same title. That doesn't really mean because
honestly, I used to. It's interesting you say that. I think that's just. It's like your thing. Like your reviews were known for that. But like for me, I remember when I used to do mine. My thing to individualize it was like buy, rent, or pass. That was my thing. And but you have like your tiers that I think a lot of your viewers value, of like buy, wait for sale, deep sale, never touch again kind of thing, where people are like, no. It's just very easy to hear and understand based off their own taste and what you had said, that you listen to that rating at the end, you go like, okay, this is for me, this isn't for me, based off what he's told me. Yeah, it's
all about context, man. It's all about context. And I got a chance to listen to Skill Up's video, and who somebody I love talking to, knows a lot about games, really is a champion for games. And then I got to listen to yours, and I was like, okay, they are not alike. Like, I'm sorry, but what the fuck are you even talking? Like, there's a complete.
Okay, so you did like a 10 pillars or something like that.
It fucking makes no sense. It's almost like saying, well, Karak said there was an M16 and so did Maddie, so they're copying each other. Fuck you, there's an M16 in the game, bitch. Like, you have to allow for people to discuss the same things, individualize within as well, within the context of the video. And so I don't really worry about it too much. I just don't worry about that shit because I think that someone's going to complain no matter what. Yes. Which is what I was telling you on a tweet. I was like, in the immortal words of somebody, fuck them. Because in the end, you're always going to lose to someone out there who will bitch about something.
Yes.
That is not me saying you should copy people. Anybody out there,
No,
do not
definitely
copy
not.
my stuff.
Definitely not.
That's just my thoughts.
Yeah, and that's, I think you took the words out of my mouth almost completely with that there. So I guess when it comes to reviewing a game, sometimes there is that issue where, you know, you have to seek individuality. I know for me, I personally I look at like the top reviewers, I look at you, Skill Up, and I'm like, okay, like they create these 15-minute, 16-minute pieces of just loaded with data. I'm like, how can I load with data, give opinions, give examples, and keep this at a more, and this isn't bad for your sake,
digestible length.
Like, this is like instead of 15, like here's something that's
6
around
or
like
8.
6 to 8 range, 5 maybe even. For those who don't have maybe as much time, that's what I try to do. And I've tried humor before. It kind of works, but I feel like that's not me. I'm a humorous guy, but I feel like I don't have that actor voice where I can crack a joke like mid serious review and have it totally make sense. But I still try sometimes. But also there are certain situations we find ourselves in where maybe we get a review copy and that game's just not something we want to review. Like you said, Seeking Dawn, I had written down.
Yeah, the VR game.
Yeah. So that one apparently wasn't very good.
No, and it was really buggy. Like, it was I mean, and I was stoked for this because you know me, I'm actually a VR fan.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And I'm into the immersion and stuff, and I get that not everybody likes it. That's totally cool too. So when I got it, I was really excited. I even got multiple copies for some patrons. We were all going to do this patron play. And then we jump in and find out if they're in Europe and I'm in America, they haven't coded in the choice to choose regions. So we couldn't even see each other. So I was like, okay, you guys play yours and I'll play mine. And then the menu wasn't even working. And it's one of the few times where I've had to like email someone and say, listen, I can't even capture enough footage to say what I think of the game right now.
Which is, so, mind you, as someone who's recorded reviews and Karak's done many, that's really hard to do. Like,
that's really hard to do.
You can usually get like a half hour and just say like, this doesn't work. But
yeah, you could say it sucks, right? And so that rarely happens. I would say it happens very, very, very rarely. This might be the second game of all time. Matter of fact, Darksiders was the other one.
Wow.
Where it went to the left all the time, and I couldn't finish the game. Okay. So I had to email the PR company and say, hey, listen, I can't even get far enough to tell you if it's bad or good. It's bugged. If I do anything, I'm going to release a Jim Sterling type of thing where he did with Sasuna's Sacrifice, or Night, what is it? Blade. Hellblade, yes. Where he said, you know, I got this bug, don't get the game. I actually agreed with his review. I was like, if it's a game-killing bug, sorry guys, you're fucked, you know. But that being said, sometimes it's rare, but sometimes you have to just look at a game and go, what the fuck do I do? Do I cover this? And for me, I spent 6 hours maybe just in tech, just trying to get it running. So what I did was I said, I'm going to cover it in my podcast, and I did. Not to the positive light. I think that's rare, though. I think overall, most of the time when they're giving out code, if they call it a review code, it is review code. It's very rare it's this kind of situation, which it was, dude, it was not ready.
Yeah.
Like, man. I mean, I just don't even know how they thought it was.
I've had those situations where you start up the game and it's so buggy you wonder if you'll just even want to get through it. I think Sniper Ghost Warrior 3 was a really good example of like...
I loved how buggy that game was, though.
It was so buggy, and there were times when the loading screen happened, I'm like, is it finally breaking? Is it finally over? And like, I'd be there for like 2 minutes, I'm like, I think it finally broke, and it would just like send me back in the game. I'm like, God damn it, like I just gotta write down that the load times are fucking ridiculous and keep playing. You know, it was like one of those situations where like you just knew off the bat, like, okay, this is not a good game whatsoever.
I think overall, most of the time, you know, if you can get the footage, you review it, because if it sucks, you want to tell people.
Yes.
And I think that for me, at least, like I said, I think there's 2 examples of, you know, 500 some reviews where that's happened. That's a shitty situation, but another shitty situation, at least to me, is what's happening now. Just to talk about the review process, one of the things that's really bothering me is this bullshit where they're like, you can only show the first like 7 minutes of the game. You can dude, I'm telling you, Gears of War 4 was redonkulous. That fucking embargo was like this long, and it was all, you have to use RB roll footage, like all this crazy shit. And I'm like, seriously, guys, what you should say is, here are the points not to spoiler this person's death, this person's arrival later, blah, 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 and go from there. And that has been happening quite a bit lately.
Yeah, dude.
Where I've been getting those.
Oh, man, I remember that, too, because I had edited my review, uploaded it, you and I were chatting, you said, dude, that fucking embargo. I'm like, fuck, I didn't even really look. Yep. I had to, like, go back and slap on gameplay in, like, so many different areas and just, okay, like, it's fine now, but it's so fucking ridiculous, man. That's my own fault for not looking, you know, I should clarify that, but there are some times where, like you said, yeah, you just cut out this person's death, keep this story beat hidden, and you're good. But there are some gameplay restrictions where like, only use review footage from the first 30 hours of the game.
Yeah.
And what sucks about this, this may sound ridiculous, like 30 hours of footage for a 15-minute tops review, Maddie. Come on. It's like, you just got to understand that when you're constantly recording your gameplay, that something could happen at the 60-hour mark. A bug, a point in combat that you want to highlight in your review, and you cannot use that visually to represent what you are talking about, which then becomes frustrating because it's after a certain mark in the game that the developer had written down, just because they don't want someone to see one moment in that final 30-hour span or something along those lines. Like it can be very frustrating because you don't want to obviously terminate any what's the word I'm looking for, partnerships with these companies.
Yeah,
you don't
want, right?
Yeah, you don't want to, you always want to respect them because they're doing you a favor by giving you a game not only free but early. It's just like you're trying to work with them, inform people on, more than likely it's something good, right? You're like, if you're playing that deep, you're like, this is something good I want to show, but you can't. It's like they're almost shooting themselves in the foot. Like it's
also, I think that's a good point towards you saying things are similar. If we're all only able to show level 3 and prior, you're going to have a lot of the similar coverage.
Yeah,
God of War had that where people were like, "Why is nobody showing this or that?" And it's like, dude, because we were literally like when, for example, you have the dead head on your, what's his name's head on your waist.
Yes,
I couldn't tell if they considered that a spoiler, so I had to cut my video so that every time it showed that side of like his body, I would like try to cut it out. I would try to not show that as much as possible. There was a couple times where he's still in there, and that was more me even than them. But you'll get a similarity there too, and that definitely happens. In fact, that's why now in my videos I post the first response and I'll say summary, blah, 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 blah. And then if there's a crazy embargo, I'll just state, crazy embargo can't show prior to level 2. And if people, I would say now, if people are wondering how often this happens, I would say I have more embargo restrictions now than not when I get games.
I agree.
I would say by a good amount.
Same here. Yeah, absolutely. I just miss those days like Octopath actually kind of did in a good way. They're like 30-hour previews go up a couple of days before launch, let people talk about it then, and then reviews go up day of. I think that's fair. Like giving consumers an idea of like should they be interested or not, and then give them the final answer afterwards. Yeah. I thought that approach was good. And the last thing I actually wanted to highlight was I was on Game Informer just checking the news for this actual show, and I had noticed the Earthfall review had come out. And I saw for them, and I like their site for reviews personally. It's one of the first I go to after YouTube. I saw they gave Earthfall a 5. And now I remember, for example, you had spoken highly, not highly, but you were like, I like this game. It's fun. It's good Left 4 Dead action. And it made me think it's about like knowing the reviewer, knowing your friends. Who can you trust? So I actually don't even know who wrote this Earthfall review. Generally, a lot of consumers will look at that 5 and go, okay, I don't need to play this. It got a 5.
Yeah.
But I know Karak's taste. I know what Karak likes, and Karak does know what I like. So him saying like, oh, dude, it's fun, you should try it, I would be more inclined to try something along those lines. So that's why I always tell people, and Karak, I know you've done the same because you got me into doing it, was like, how could you say this if, I'm going to go watch this person's review instead from now on? I'm like, you should just watch both. Just so that you can, I'd recommend you watch someone else's review anyway after mine, because our taste may not align, or I may value something more than you do. You know, there's a reason, for example, Vampire is currently my game of the year, right? Like, there's a reason, because I lean more towards the choice-driven, unique atmosphere, and cool settings than most. There's a reason why Prey's DLC has a better chance of slipping onto my game of the year list than Prey itself did last year. You know, it's like I value different things. I value that not that no one else does. I value this creativity, this like, oh, this is new and this is fresh. And when I have something fresh in my hands and it works well, I'm like, this is huge for me. This is a big game changer, where Prey's DLC takes those amazing systems in place and builds on them and puts a procedural generation system in there, and then puts classes, and then you have to consider so many different things. It's a very deep mind game, and I value that more. So that's what I'm saying, is like, you got to know your content creator. You got to know who's creating the review.
And like, I haven't done a review for Earthfall. I don't think I will, but like, I can see there's a ton of issues with it. It still is fun, and I always explain that. I don't know what I would review it, because I didn't get a chance to play the new levels, which is what I would do if I was going to do a review. But I saw 5.5, I saw 5, and I was like, it's funny because most of the time I don't balk at anything. I see a review and I'm like, that was their experience. Occasionally I'll see a 10 for PUBG and I'll be like, come the fuck on. Like, let's think this one through. Even if you don't like or even if you love PUBG, most people wouldn't say 10 out of 10. But like, when I look at an Earthfall, I think one of the things that's interesting about that, or Vampire, or any of those titles, is that most titles aren't perfect, and it's the imperfections and how much they weigh that usually cause a person to rate a game whatever it is. So a game may look graphically amazing to me, doesn't mean I'll rate it a buy, because that wouldn't make any sense. It's you have to look at all of the elements, and some of those things will detract from that look.
Yes.
And it is about knowing, I think, the reviewer, understanding. And like I said, it's, if you have 10 people watching your reviews, 10 fucking people, that means 10 people took the time to watch your shit. That's awesome. But don't ever assume everybody's going to agree. What always surprises me is when somebody vehemently can't understand why people disagree. And I always wonder if they have a special magical life that I don't have. Because I disagree with everybody in my family at least once a day on entertainment, on whatever. So whenever I see somebody be like, I fucking can't believe it, blah, 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 I'm usually a little stupefied by it, because I'm like, really? Or somebody will say, I followed Matty for 50 reviews, but this one I don't agree with, so I'm leaving him. And I'll be all, okay, 50 versus 1? You were never a fan ever in the first place. At the very minimum, you could have said, this bothers me, let's discuss it. Doesn't mean a YouTuber will have the time to do that. But it is something that's very odd when you get those kind of weird reactions to something. It's very odd if you take it to heart, I guess.
Yeah.
It's not very odd. Like, for me, I'll usually fuck back with them, and I'll be like, you know, I'll say something smart-assed. It depends on how you respond to people. But it is odd because there's so many different little idiosyncrasies that occur that, to me, I usually would say, I agree with somebody else's review, even if I didn't review it that way. Like, I'll be all, okay, as long as there's context, as long as I can watch something or read something if I'm interested and go, yeah, okay, I get it. You know, makes sense.
Absolutely. So yeah, that's the review process. Just a little of insight there for you guys as we get ready to really take a deep dive into what's going on there.
Yeah, even I'm taking days off. Yeah, like, because it's going to be pretty busy. I'm like, yeah, I'm going to give myself a couple days.
So crucial. We were talking about time away from the screen. So important. Just to, you know, let your brain breathe. It's going to be
unbelievable. Like, it's not going to just be unbelievable because there's a lot of cool titles, but also the length, like a Red Dead.
Open world,
you might make 20 fucking you might make 20 videos just for Red Dead if there was reasons to. Yeah, so it's going to be a busy fall.
Absolutely. Next is, since a big RPG dropped this week, I wanted to talk about when the grind is okay. Now, this is a topic that originally Karak had come up with many episodes ago. And so I wanted to return to that.
I forgot about this. We did okay, we did. It did sound interesting.
Yes. I thought I had clarified that beforehand, but I don't think I said.
I think you did, and I didn't understand what you meant.
Okay.
Like, yeah, you did. You did say something.
Okay. So with Octopath Traveler dropping, a lot of people have been like, okay, you know, this game's great. It's a JRPG's dream. You know, this is the RPG the Switch needed. Love it, love it, love it. And there are people who are saying, like, it's all right. You know, there's a lot of tough battles. You got to work your way up in the level sometimes. I liked it, though. And there are people who are like, this is so disjointed, detached. There is no organic storyline that joins all these forces together. It's just a mess, and you have to grind a lot to get to certain bosses late game and whatnot. And so I wanted to discuss, this kind of tails perfectly off the review of, now we have different opinions again here. This time it's along the lines where maybe someone who's saying, fuck this grind, would say, I love this grind for something like Destiny. Why does that happen? What makes a certain grind okay? For me, I always feel it boils down to aesthetics. What is aesthetically pleasing? It's almost like, would you rather sit in a room that smells like shit, or would you rather sit in a room that smells like perfume? You know, like, you know, it's
no
like,
matter if you're fucking or not.
Yeah, exactly.
If the room stinks, you're just like, hey, I'm out.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like, I think it boils down to something small like that, where when I'm playing Octopath Traveler, this game has some of the most beautiful art design. I love sprites or 16-bit RPGs. They really just speak to the old days, but not only that, but when I was a kid and first really getting into RPGs, and I was always grinding, in a different term, grinding, on my Game Boy Advance SP. You know, those were some of my favorite gaming memories. So for me, it's aesthetically pleasing to just be around that and see it in a new, modern tech engine and all the upgrades that come with that. Where someone who maybe doesn't appreciate that as much might be more inclined to side with Destiny, because they'll say, oh, I remember running like 40 Halo 3 multiplayer matches in a row, and we were on, I put this in quotes, that grind, end quotes, and that grind kind of resembles what they're doing in Destiny. I think that might play to it, just like I said, on an aesthetic level. But what do you think makes one grind okay but not another? Or is there a reason that all gamers should hate the grind?
No, I think so to me personally, grind is okay as long as there's a continuity. I can usually ignore grind if there's some reason to ignore it. So continuity, story continuity makes sense. Like if they're like, the reason why there's a shit ton of bad guys is because of this reason. Like they're ants coming out of an anthill, they're aliens. I'll be like, okay, that kind of, you know, that makes sense fictionally, or at least I can buy that. But then what happens, and we see this a lot of times, where instead of something like that, they're just like, the enemies just continually come, and you find out that what you're really doing is grinding for a sword with a +1 to damage compared to what you have. That is when I'm not a fan of long grind sessions. If you're going to do grind, I'm a fan of incremental improvements at the very least, if not procedural generation to adjust the levels, you know, graphics changes. I think aesthetics make a huge difference, like you said. For example, I know you and Lone liked Borderlands. Aesthetically, I was not a fan of Borderlands look. So to me, that grind is not, it doesn't matter if I liked the guns, actually. I loved some of the guns. I loved some of the weird things you could get. But because it didn't look visually enticing, let's be honest, we go on visuals.
Yeah.
And what I mean is, in real life, you know, you don't look at a car and go, man, that looks like a piece of shit, I'm buying that. So to me, those are the kind. Well, do you? I mean,
no, I'm just fucking imagining.
Most people don't. Can you imagine it being with your friend? He's like, man,
this car looks like fucking shit, man. I want
that. Is basically most likely a hemorrhoid with wheels. I'm buying that. You're like, nobody says that. So to me, graphically, it does matter as well. I was a big fan of Hellgate London, which was, and I don't mean a big fan saying it was good, but I was a big fan of playing it because the grind in that, I got different, you know, they procedurally generated some of the weapons like Borderlands. Okay. If that can entice me, I like enticements, graphically, sound, all those kind of things. And I think that that's when it becomes not okay, but more tolerable. I think that's the best way to describe it.
It's aesthetically, and I also thought as you were going on, it might be the goal, right? Like, what's the goal here, for this grind?
What's the goal of the grind?
Yeah, exactly. And I guess that kind of lines up with you. Like, what's the purpose? Why are the enemies reappearing? In Octopath's case, I've noticed, as I played some more of the demo late last night to get ready for the full release today, and I'm sorry, ladies and gentlemen, there was a Patron question, which we'll get to later on, but they had asked me what I think of Octopath, and I was like, I played the fucking Dragon Ball card game so much at my local card shop for like 5 hours that I got so caught up that I never had a chance to play Octopath today, so I won't be able to give impressions on that yet. But what I was getting to was Octopath Traveler has a mechanic where if you have Tarion the Thief, you're able to steal from people. And when you steal, you're able to get really, from some people, really fucking good gear. Like, huge upgrades, like plus 20 on all your stats, like huge, wow, that feels good upgrades without having to grind. While it does risk, if, for example, you get caught stealing, it hurts your reputation in the town, people react negatively to you, they won't speak to you as much and all that type of stuff, and I'm sure prices go up and whatnot. I thought to myself that in this situation, I feel like some of the grind might be removed. Which then does the combat just get tedious? I can't imagine it because it seems to have a very good combat system. But yeah, I think it's about the goal is what I was getting to originally. And what that goal is. Like, I remember one of my, probably the biggest grind of my gaming career was The Amazing Spider-Man 2. This is like a trademark story for me as a gamer. The Amazing Spider-Man 2, getting all the suits and upgrading all of them. I remember Kind of Funny Games cast. I sat there, I listened to like 3 fucking episodes or 4 as I grinded the same level at the end of that game for like 4 hours. I thought I would go clinically insane, and the end goal, ladies and gentlemen, was a goddamn trophy. That's the only reason I suffered through a grind. Is a grind always sufferable? No, that's why I also boil it down to aesthetics, but I think a big part of the grind and why players go through it is because there is some end goal. There is like, okay, if I get through this, I get to this. For me, it was like the bonus content. Yeah, it's the achievements.
Yeah. And I think that's why people built in achievements into games and trophies into games, because sometimes there isn't a major goal in the game, but it's like if you defeat every enemy on hard, you get this achievement, and it's a meta game within the game. If you track them like you do, that's enticing. I literally have them off, so I don't even know. Like, most of the time when an achievement pops, I might hear a sound, I think, on the Xbox, maybe even. I think I even turned that off. I'm pretty sure I just play the game. Like, I don't know. So I think for some gamers, that also speaks to them. Because I know people who are achievement hunters, as, you know, they really are. That's what they're going for. To them, the grind might be worth it because of some end goal, which, let's say, is a platinum, which they care about. And it doesn't have to necessarily be in the game. I mean, you yourself, you like trophies. So to me, it makes sense that you might look at something. Maybe I wouldn't look at it, and I'm not saying you would say this in a review. I think most of the time you would remove yourself from that equation and be like, okay.
Yeah. No, you're right.
Separate from the trophy. But I think that when people out there are like looking at a game, they hear you talk about a trophy, and I bet you some people are like, oh yeah, I would do what Maddie did. And I bet you other people are like, what the did Maddie do? Like, who do that? Makes sense. Everybody's different. They're going to like those different things.
Yeah. The only time I sometimes use platinum trophies as an example is in my God of War review, and I used it in Neo. Just as like a proof of like I did literally anything I could possibly see or think of with this game, and my review you can trust. I put, for God of War, I think I said 40 hours and 1 platinum trophy later, and for Neo I said 90 plus hours, 2 playthroughs, and 1 platinum trophy later. Just so people know, like, what before clicking on it, like, okay. Like, he did it all. He fucking did a lot with this game. But yeah, I definitely, because like I've seen reviews. Like I remember Colin Moriarty when he used to work at IGN, and I think he still does it now with some of his reviews on SideQuest and Greg Miller. You know, because they both used to run the Beyond PlayStation podcast. They'd mention trophies in reviews, and they were actually kind of originally the ones who got me into like. I loved the idea of chasing trophies in the first place, and when they started like competing as like a joke on their podcast about it, I'd always like want to get involved in that. I'd be like, all right, let me go for trophies too. So that's why when I listened to their reviews and I heard their voice on IGN, because you don't know who you're going to get sometimes, I was like very trusting of them because I knew at that time it aligned with them. But that's getting off track from the grind itself. Are there any other specific grinds you think of that maybe you were okay with, but others weren't, or vice versa?
I know people are okay. It's gonna piss a bunch of people off. I know people are okay with Diablo's grind. but I'm actually, that's one of those games
I don't get that one either.
Yeah, that's one of those games that I would play to beat and then maybe grind a little bit, but the grind itself to me is really grindy in that game. There's something about the explosion of like random weapons and clicking on them. It only lasts me a certain amount of time. But overall, when it comes to grind, I'm not a huge fan overall. I just won't hold it against the game if they try to reach out. For example, we see those games where it's like you can win it by going to most of these places, but there's a side place, God of War, where you can go and fight these certain creatures in this little side area, and you'll get this.
Cut that area as far as I'm concerned.
Well, they should have cut it, but I'm still okay with some people liking that.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not a big fan of that, but I get why somebody may say that's cool, because it's also not required. And I think that when a grind becomes a requirement and then it becomes fluff, and usually I can tell fluff because there's a distance between goals, between things you're getting.
Yes.
That just bothers me over time. It grates on me. And Ubisoft games are a prime example. You know, Assassin's Creed titles are one of those examples where they finally got away from it. But I don't know if anybody remembers, but when the first time I walked up to a floating sea shanty and that fucking thing flew off, I almost killed somebody. Like, I was I went up to reach it and it flew off. Yeah, and I was like, I'm not chasing that motherfucker.
Yeah.
Like, are you kidding me? That was fluff, because it was not only a collectible, it was a collectible that you already had to find by climbing to unique places. But then
you got to jump off of it and hunt it down.
Oh, dude. God, that killed my soul.
Disgusting. No, I agree completely. There was a grind that I wasn't a huge... I wouldn't call it a grind. This is probably the wrong wording, but a lot of people were like a huge fan of Doom and the way it was constructed, New Doom. And how it was like I liked the carrot when it was dangled in front of me. You know, I liked chasing and getting those new weapons and using them all, and then having that period of time where you just run into rooms and you had your full arsenal and you just blow shit up. And that was fun. But then it became grindy where it felt like another room. Another fucking room. Another room. It was like, oh my goodness, I like this game, but oh my god. Where some people, it was like, was the grind okay? In their opinion, for me, the end game was the grind. But for some people, maybe the beginning game was, and I put this in quotes, the grind, where they were acquiring all the weapons, ramping up for, yes, I finally got everything, and that's where they were like, fuck yes, I'm the man. So I really think it's aesthetically, I think it's goal-wise, I think it's not preference, that's not the right word, it's expectations, trying to make your video game dreams come true. Like, I want to be the Doom Marine, and I want to have all these weapons, and fucking first demon I see afterwards is getting cut with this chainsaw, and then I'm blasting the other one with the, what's that green cannon with the funny-ass name?
I don't remember.
You, like, charge it up and decimates enemies. It had, like, a funny... whatever. Anyway, just a little bit of a talk on the grind. And now we move into our favorite new part of the show, the patron questions.
We need a music. We need like a, not like Jeopardy, but we need a little jingle you can hit and play. Like,
I would love that. I would love that. Ladies and gentlemen, if you work on music at all and you can make us a funny little jingle, reach out to either of us. Our handles are on screen at G27Status and at Jeremy Penter. Let us know, because we'd like to add a little bit more fun stuff. Anyway, let's get into the questions. We have a lot more this time than we did last week. First off, shout out to the Grimblade for having 114 hours in Prey. That's fucking insane. But anyway.
Jesus.
I know, right?
Embrace the grind, Grim. Embrace it.
Yeah, is that a grind? I'd love to hear his response in the Patreon Discord.
Yeah, no shit. That would be interesting.
Yeah. All right, so Toft asks us, did either of you think you'd make it this far with YouTube?
No.
Yes, you don't plan for this type of stuff. You have the goal, you have the hopes, but no, I can't say I personally planned for it. Do I have the confidence to hopefully make it this deep? Yes, but...
I have a question for you, Maddie. Did you do... So, when I started, gaining one sub was a big deal, right? And then you gain a couple, and then you start like looking at your numbers. One of the things I will no longer do religiously, I won't look at numbers.
I try my best to as well.
But I remember one time going, holy shit, I am close to always getting double-digit subscribers every day. And being like, that's awesome. And then it goes to triple, and occasionally I'll hit, quadruple if I do a big review or whatever.
Yeah.
And that's the one thing I will say that, like, I didn't look forward to it. I didn't even think it will happen, but it is something I tracked. Like, I was like, oh shit, people like this. So it wasn't necessarily what I ever thought would happen. It's the stuff I hoped for. I hoped to get double-digit subscribers every day. Like, that was a hope, and to hit that is fantastic. Like, it's amazing.
Absolutely. I remember vividly when my channel first ever got some growth. I had started doing Skyrim guides. I did rare weapon guides. And I remember I used to have my iPod Touch hooked up to my email account. And at the time, anytime I got a sub and anytime I got a comment, I'd hear the little ving, ving, because I kept getting an email. I remember, like, I had posted my Chillrend Skyrim guide, and then I posted Bolar's Oathblade. And both these videos were exploding. And I just remember, like, walking into my room to play more Skyrim, to make more videos, just because I was like, let's do this, and hearing, like, ving, 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 like that. Like, I'm not exaggerating. It just kept in, like that. And I remember, like, cheesiest smile and, like, jumping up and down in my room like it was fucking Christmas. It was, so, yeah. And what I do nowadays is, like, like, you get accustomed to it. You see, like, those double-digit numbers. You're like, okay, I'm used to this. It was really, really, really exciting when May, June, this month, I've seen, quadruple digit numbers each month. That's been really exciting because I walk into a mall or I walk into a store of any kind and I see, like, X amount of people, and then I, like, apply in my head, like, this is like a couple hundred people. And that many people times, like, 4 sub to me on YouTube. It's like, fuck, that's awesome. So, like, yeah, that's how I think of it that way too. Because sometimes for people, and I've had this issue before, sometimes it's just numbers on a screen, right? You're like, yeah, okay, like, not that it means less, but you're just like, you're always interacting with just data on a screen. That's why meetups are so important. That's why I'm upset I missed PAX East this year, because I like to take the time. I didn't meet a couple of people at E3, but I like to take the time to, like, talk with the viewers and build relationships and meet them and actually physically see that person in front of me. And I remember literally every person, not by name, but, like, I remember the faces of every person. So when they tweet at me on Twitter, like, I know who it is. It's awesome. It's awesome.
Yeah, the one, and I've told you this, but the best experience for me, and I will remember it forever, is going to PAX and having somebody yell across the street, like, Angry Centaur! And I turned around and he's like, oh shit! And meeting him and being like, wow, and I was at like 40,000 or something, and meeting him and being like, oh, well, that's really awesome, like, to meet people like that. Those are the ones that, like, to me, that's actually more enjoyable. Oh, whoops, my computer went out. To me, that's more enjoyable overall, the people, than it is the numbers. Because another thing about numbers, they don't mean much, because I also have people unsubscribe. You get, somebody will post your video somewhere, like on a forum somewhere, and it'll get extra subscribers, but it doesn't really indicate they're always going to watch your stuff. So to me, usually it's like people, when somebody says something like, hey, I disagreed with this, but I actually see your context, I'm far more likely to interact with them than anybody on the other two ends of the spectrum. If somebody's like, I absolutely love your stuff, I would kill for you, I'm like, whoa, they're a little dangerous. You never know where psychologically they are. But, or somebody who's like, you're a fucker, those two, whatever. It's the ones who are more like fan-like, but understand, who you are and stuff like that, and that I remember, and I'll probably remember forever.
Absolutely. Next question comes from Crazy Herb. He had guested on the podcast one time. He says, what are your guys' thoughts on achievement art? I think it is really overlooked by people, but some achievements have awesome pieces of concept art attached to them. Also, what additions do you think they can make to the achievement system in general? So, this is hot off of you saying you didn't even know it made a sound.
I don't even know what he's talking about right now.
You didn't even know it made a sound, so I don't even know if you knew about the concept art. See, for me, as a primary, like, I don't achievement hunt anymore. I used to. I had like 60K gamer score on, like, in 2013 on my Xbox, and then I just moved to PS3. Yeah, no, I mean, you're not wrong. You're not wrong. I totally agree with you, pridefully. But yeah, after that, I moved to my PS3 mostly, and then I bought Xbox One at launch, and instantly, once Christmas came, it was PS4 time since then. So I've been more of a trophy hunter. I have always noticed and appreciated those little pictures that pop up in the corner for PS4 alongside the trophies, because like the Fallout ones are always the best. Like seeing like the Fallout 3 Platinum, like he's holding the Platinum trophy, the Vault Boy. I thought that was fucking awesome. Xbox does cool things where you can take that achievement art and like make it your background on your profile and stuff, which I love. PlayStation has a similar thing. If you save a screenshot, you can make it your profile picture background if someone were to view your profile on PSN. But as for the additions they can make to the achievement system, we had talked about this one time a while ago, and it was really hard for us to think of ways to evolve it, because Xbox had created a system that I would have originally suggested where they have that ultra rare achievement, they call it, where you do little things all over the place and it creates the one big final achievement or something like that. PS4's got that Platinum trophy. I think their best addition was showing percentages to increase, like saying...
Same thing with Xbox. I love that.
It's like, oh, 5% got this, and I'm one of those 5% of like a million gamers. Like, that's awesome to see. So what I'd suggest, if anything, is not a specific idea, but more so how you can further that feeling of accomplishment and enticement. One way of doing that is rewards, I think. And by rewards, I mean something along the lines of, I remember there was only for the UK, it was awfully strange. If you got the Platinum in Bloodborne, they'd give you a special free dynamic background. Or theme, sorry, for your PS4. And I was like, I wish I had that, because I Platinum Bloodborne. I love that game, man. I played that like 3 or 4 times through. And I worked hard for the Platinum just like anyone else. So why is it because I'm not in the UK do I not get this theme? I'd love for there to be rewards tied to that ultimate achievement or ultra achievement. I'd love for rewards to be tied to the Platinum. Just like, not, hey, you got the Plat. You know, you got the Plat, and here's a theme. Here's a unique gamer picture. Here's, I don't know what the fuck else. You know, I know there was this thing that Sony had done, I think, where you can show your trophy count and get like X amount of credit on the store or something like that. But they obviously, I had just remembered that as we talk about it. So I imagine there's a reason they're not promoting it that much, probably because that's lost money for them. But yeah, like I said, it's one of the few systems in video games that I think is very well crafted for those who like it. For those who don't like it, like Karak said, you just turn it off. It's very easy to ignore too. And so I feel like it's one of those situations where, yeah, you just have to add to the accomplishment. All you can do is add more and just give them something for completing it, not just saying you got the Plat.
I love the percentages. It's a good thing you mentioned that, because that's the one thing I noticed. I think it was Dead Rising 4. When maybe they just had turned them on, but the Xbox had like a diamond, and it's like, and a really high, like tinkly, like crystalline sound, and it was a rare achievement. You know, 1% of people, and I was just like, oh, that was cool. It burned off pretty quickly, but if other people like that, I could see that. I could see rewards. The only problem if it's a reward that's unconnected to the game and not a cosmetic, I would be totally fine with it. I just wouldn't want somebody to get a special cape. I don't know why. I don't know why. I mean, it just, that sort of starts to make me feel.
So you wouldn't want like an in-game reward?
I wouldn't. I know that sounds crazy.
No,
but
I was just curious. I hadn't even thought of that.
Or do what Uplay does. This is one of the few times I'm going to say something positive about Uplay. But Uplay has the gold coins you get as you play games. And I love that I can go from Far Cry and then jump into Assassin's Creed and spend those in Assassin's Creed. And I can't buy them anywhere, at least that I know of. I think in the games you can buy them, but I'm not talking about that. I love that, because what it has actually caused me to do is occasionally go back to a Ubisoft game I didn't think I was going to go back to and buy something for it, like a gun or whatever, just to look and just be like, oh, man, you know, I'll jump into this. There's a cool new gun that I can get. And I love the fact that if I play Ubisoft games and have gold coins and a new game comes, you can sometimes buy an achievement, or not buy an achievement, but buy a cosmetic right then. I think the cross-game stuff I like more than in-game. Like, I like the idea because I think it might engage people a little bit more in their titles.
Definitely.
But to me,
it feels like you get more right off the bat. Like in Siege,
yeah,
you get like I remember I started up Siege for the first time in a while, a couple of nights ago, and because I had Watch Dogs 2 between then and now, like I had Watch Dogs 2 stuff. Yeah, it was just cool that the cross game stuff happened.
Yep.
So I can get behind that too. I'd say that. I wouldn't imagine people would be opposed to in-game items just because you get the keep them playing, right?
So Prey and Bethesda, right? Don't you get Skyrim stuff in the Prey DLC?
Mm-hmm. Correct. Prey and
what do you have to do? You know what you have to do to get that?
I am not sure. I am not sure because it was just recently added, I believe.
Yeah.
If I remember correctly. But I know there's like a Mimic top hat. It's like striped that you can
get there you go.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. I love it.
I would have that.
Next question comes from Heretical Shark. What is in your opinion the scariest or creepiest video game you've ever played and why?
Easy.
Oh man.
Do you have one?
Actually no. I read this question in advance too and I was just like, I don't play a lot of scary games. Creepy, that one I might be able to answer though, but I'd love to hear your answer. It'll probably
System Shock 2.
Ooh, okay.
It's got space monkeys, which is creepy enough on their own. Monkeys are already creepy. Should all be killed. I'm just joking. But it's System Shock 2 is one of those ones where it gave me the shivers and caused me to legitimately be like creeped out. And then Thief 3 has a level, and this level's been covered by Game of Sutra. It's been covered at GDC, called The Cradle, and it's a living home that is it's where like an insane asylum where a bunch of people died, but the home is alive. And if you play Thief, I would assume most people would agree that in a Thief game, the world is your oyster. It's like, it's your partner. Shadows are your partner. The darkness is your partner. Like those are the places that you can find solace because a human's going to kill you if they see you. What happens in the Cradle is the exact opposite. The house wants to kill you. And to me, there was something fucking amazing. And if anybody gets a chance, go out and look at Game of Sutra's like 45-page breakdown from the developer. But the developer even made a sound effect that is actually, if a human heart was enlarged to the size of a home, what it would sound like. And that's the music in the background. So it's like this low, and you never pick up on that. It's just discordant and a little uncomfortable sounding. And then I found out by reading these articles that he had put that in. Fantastic. So System Shock 2, and then, like I said, Thief, a level in Thief. Do you have any creepy ones?
Yes, creepy. Scary. I don't dive into scary that much. Not like it's afraid. It's more like I'm just never thinking, let me go play something scary. I don't know. Because I think creepy is more effective. Because like you can get like really good, you can get action-packed, and then you can also get creepy. But if you're playing scary, you're getting just that scary.
Yeah.
So if it was like scary, you think of like Resident Evil 7, like that game scared me. There were a couple of points.
Kool-Aid Man when he comes out of the hole.
Yeah, or like when you turn around in the crawl space and you just see the little girl's dress and her legs. Like I hate little girls in horror games. So like for me, I was like, I was in this very chair playing on my PC like this. I was like,
yeah, exactly.
I literally put the controller down, went and ate dinner.
I don't trust this game.
Yeah, I was like, we're taking a breather. Creepy though, bit of a different pick, but I'd go with Danganronpa. That series has always very much creeped me out. I love it to death. It's one of my favorite series, but it's creepy. It's literally based around you're locked in a school. There are kids who are younger than me at this point in time, like around age 18 max, trapped in this school, and the only way they get out is by murdering each other. And it's like, that's just a creepy concept. That's fucking dark. And when you look at the complexity of these murders and how they try to hide them, and you break it down in the case, it's like, fuck, how did someone that young, of course it's like not literally them, but you connect with the characters, you go, how did someone that young think of something so absolutely wrong and like hateful, were they that self-absorbed that they wanted to escape, that they do that to someone and take away their life? And then when they're executed, so let's say you succeed in the class trial, and you do incriminate the correct person, and you're like, you're the killer, and it turns out they are, they get executed at the end, and like every execute's themed on the character they are. So for example, a certain character in the game, I will not spoil who, gets fucking lit up by a automatic baseball pitching machine, by like 40 of them from all angles. So you just see a bunch of balls coming in, just literally pelting this guy to death.
That sounds really creepy just hearing about
it. It's and V3, the latest one, is just super fucked. Super fucked. Especially some of the executions, man. They're like at least the first two will break your heart. It always just leaves an unsettling feeling. It's just very impactful. Like I said,
would you say Persona? Because Persona creeps me out when they chop the heads off the monsters to upgrade them. I don't know why.
Persona 5 story beginning did creep me out. Like the first 10 hours where you start seeing like Kamoshida and like who he really is, and some of the themes they're actually touching on, which not many games ever do. I was like, whoa, it's kind of fuck. Like they do a really good job in that game of not showing what's really happening, but alluding to like, hey, what's her best friend's name? I forgot her name, but like they're like the Kamoshida wants to see you in his office, and like the kid who's coming from there is bruised, and he's sending another bruised girl out there. You're like, oh fuck, bro, like this guy's awful.
Well, and isn't that the one? Yeah, it's Persona. It's the latest one where like your teacher and you, or it's not you, it's your teacher. No, it is you.
Yeah, your teacher and you are kind of like feuding.
Yeah. Well, no, like, and then she becomes one of the teachers, dresses up. And you go,
Kawakami. Yeah, you're like, fuck.
Yeah, that was when I was like, I mean, I have no problem with it. People have their own kinks, but I remember while playing it going, fuck, like they went there. Like that was pretty shocking for that game.
It was definitely fan service though, because you can like date a bunch of girls your age. And you're like, you can go for the mom if you want.
Yeah, the MILF.
Yeah. Next question comes from Papa Bear. Are you guys ever going to get a replacement host for the podcast, and what would that process look like? So, this isn't to cut you out, but I feel like because I was there for the only replacement process, I can speak to that best. With Karak, it was a very unique situation because we had already had you on at one point. I had known you for a long enough time, where upon Noah leaving, me, you, and Lone had already gelled, where like a sub at that point made sense, and not only that, but more importantly, it fit. It didn't break the chemistry of the podcast. It didn't break. We didn't have to twist who we were for it. You know, there weren't any sacrifices, and so I was just. It was it wasn't even a process. It was like, you want to join every week? Yeah. Okay, that was it. With a replacement host, Karak and I have talked about it. It's more so we're keeping our eyes open, but a lot of people have really suggested, and we had really touched on it more, that, hey, we have all this space in the show, and I know this is ironic because there's only 2 of us here, and it's been that way for the past 2 weeks, but we're like, hey, there are 2 of us here. This is a good chance to get guests on and have space on our show, where we never really had that. It was always us 3, and then a big issue we'd have is we'd want to bring on one person, and we'd have another that was only available for 1 week. So then we couldn't stack them 5 people into a call. We've only done that once in the history of the show, and it was just like internet hell. It was actually, for those wondering, it was the interview with Courtney Taylor and Kal-El Bagdanov, who was the voice director for Fallout 4. Yeah, it's like one of those situations where once we know, kind of. Like, once we have that guest where we just hit it off, and you, like, you know, we shut down the recording, and you and I, like, kind of glance at each other like, dude, that was good. Like, you know, we kind of just know. At least in my opinion. Now, I don't want to speak for you, but because that's kind of how it went for Lone and I afterwards. You joined. I was like, bro. It's like, he added so much. He was funny as fuck. Like, I think, you know, we can trust. No, I think, like, we can trust him, and I think he's, like, a really good fix here for what we need. And it was instantaneous, and it was a perfect decision. So it's like, that's my opinion. That's how I've approached it personally.
I think the big thing too that it's hard to admit, but dude, it's hard to get people who want to do a podcast. First of all, on somebody else's channel. The reason why I have no problem is because I absolutely love talking to Maddie. Like, it's my favorite thing on a Friday. But a lot of people don't have a 1 o'clock Pacific, 3 o'clock Eastern time frame that they can jump in, or whatever time frame it was for Maddie when we started. So the big thing for me is, like, anybody you get, dude, and are they going to make sure their audio looks okay? Are they going to, you know, have their shit set up? Are they going to take it serious? And I mean, I think it is really rare. Like, we've had the same issue on our podcast. It's like, if you try or are thinking about, you know, adding somebody, even if you're not replacing somebody, adding, very difficult. Time is a big deal. You don't want to say, hey, we're going to have somebody else on the channel. I mean, even you and I stress missing one, like, where we're all, okay, this is the thing. I mean, my family knows Fridays cannot be disturbed. Like, I mean, I have family members who live with me who are all, we know on Fridays we have to leave the house because Karak doesn't want to deal with a bunch of sounds while he's recording, except for the dogs. So I think it's difficult, man. Yeah. I mean, you have to find somebody who is going to buy in to doing it, and it's not that easy. It's
a commitment. It really is. Because even for me, like, you know, Friday in the evening, that's like right when plans are starting. Like, I don't say it's in a complaining way, but like, my friends right now are having a pool party, and I will have to skedaddle as fast as I can after the show. But it's like one of those things where that's a sacrifice. If Karak and I decide not to do the show, which will never happen, you know, then my Fridays are open. But it's a sacrifice, and it's like you got to block out at least 3 hours, which is a good chunk of your day. That's your morning to evening. That's your morning to afternoon, your afternoon to evening, evening to night. Like, it's a big part of your day when you're awake. So
I think also,
and like you said, not to cut you off, just like it's like it's on my channel. It's like you benefit from exposure. Podcasts aren't the highest viewed videos either, and so it's just a situation where it's definitely, I would say it's hard to get someone on, but it's one of those things where some of the ideas we've had, we thought about, we're like, you know, they wouldn't really want to commit anyway.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I was just going to add that I think that the commitment is in a sort of, it has to accompany, are they going to try to push the podcast? Or, you know, is it going to be somebody who wants to join in and talk, isn't necessarily super caustic? You know, because that can be fun, but over a long period of time, that's not what you guys have ever been about. You guys have been about one of your best friends being on the channel. Another friend, you know, in loan that you've got to meet a couple times, but really gelling, getting together, having a good time so that your Friday is spent knowing that when you get done and hit send and upload it, that you can leave without having to worry about anything. And it's fucking so difficult, man. I mean, there's a lot of people who want their own shit too, like you said. Like, I've thought, I'll upload my Maddie's podcast onto mine if I miss an international. We haven't, but it's like, if I miss an international. But overall, I think most people just don't even want to do that. Like, not to be rude, but a lot of YouTubers, they want their own thing. Not to be rude. I mean, but they do. So it's hard.
Yeah, absolutely. Because most times what happens is we're creators. So when someone says, hey, you want to join my podcast, and they don't have their own, they're like, why don't I just make my own?
Freddie Prinze Jr., I've told you this. He loves video games. I talk to him all the time on Twitter. And every single time somebody asks him to join a podcast, he's like, why don't you just come to mine? And he made it very clear. He was like, listen, you invite me, but in all honesty, I've got my own, or I'm going to start my own. It's true. Like, the moment you ask somebody, they're all, maybe I should just do that too. Everybody's got a podcast.
Hey, absolutely. Got a podcast. That's the thing,
and my mom should have a podcast.
Anyway, that's wait. We did miss one. I just remembered. I did recall seeing one from Dov Plays. I remember it actually from the top of my head. I just wanted to get the exact reading, but he said, like, if you could take one artifact from any game into real life, what would it be?
Like a necklace of something, or like,
I guess like
an item.
Yeah,
right?
Just an item, like something you could hold in the palms of your hand, kind of. Not like a fucking tower or something. I don't know.
I was gonna say the golden apple from Assassin's Creed, but that's not very fair because that pretty much
that kind of works.
Overpowerful. Yeah, I'm trying to think. Like, dude, I would love a laser gun.
Yeah.
I don't know why, but like the idea of having a Mass Effect gun and just going into the backyard, just blowing the fences away.
What's funny is my original answer would be something like the Pip-Boy or whatever, or the Vault-Tec bobbleheads, but like they already made those, so
that's true, didn't they? And there's already Nerf Mass Effect guns. You know what I'd like? There's a necklace in Baldur's Gate that increases your like physical appearance by like 10. There you go.
Yeah.
I'd buy that and I'd just be like, I'm single again. See you guys later.
Oh, dude. Horrible answer, but it's anyone's crazy if they wouldn't. A lightsaber.
Oh, yeah.
Hello?
Oh, true. A real lightsaber would be...
Yeah, absolutely. Give me a green lightsaber.
SWAT team would show up at your house and somebody be like, this dude's chopping shit up with a fucking lightsaber. But it'd be the coolest 40 minutes.
Okay, like cutting the tree down.
Or they're shooting and you're just blocking their fucking MP5 bullets. Yeah, lightsaber would be a very good one.
Yeah. I mean, it's a tough one to answer without something cliche, but
yeah.
Thank you nonetheless for those questions, patrons. And that wraps up everything we've got for episode 163 of the H.A.M Radio Podcast. Karak, you have fun?
Oh, dude, I always have a blast. And what's funny is you're at 63. I'm only at 83. You're at 163, sorry. I'm only at 83. So I've got a large number to...
yeah.
Catch
it was funny is it'll sneak up on you. You'll be at 160 and you'll go, fuck, like, how did we get here?
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. Very regular, which I love. Like, I love being able to plan and go, yep, this is for sure happening.
Yeah, this is for sure happening. This is happening every Sunday. It's something to put up on the channel. Yeah, I agree completely. Completely. Especially as someone who uploads every day. It's like, so nice to like...
way better than I do. I'll tell you that much.
Well, dude, it's tough sometimes when there's like a slow news week. Like, I'm making a video about Ty Howard saying, stop buying Skyrim. I'm like... You know, I don't mind making this, but I mean, I really wish something else was coming out. So, like, on a slow news week like this, having a podcast to toss up on the Sunday, it's beautiful.
Yeah,
beautiful.
It's very cool.
Anyway, we hope you guys enjoyed episode 163 of the H.A.M Radio Podcast. If you got this deep in the show, tweet at us with the hashtag.
We talked about...
Love one another. I feel
love
like
one another.
That's been a good theme lately. So we'll do that. Handles are at G27status, at Jeremy Penter. We hope to hear from you guys, and we'll catch you next week. Peace out.
Peace out.